red star above Kepler 442b grew brighter each day. High Speaker Zenth stood at the observation deck of the great tower, watching the angry light pulse in the sky. His people called it the Death Star now. The scientists said they had maybe. 6 months before the radiation would kill everything on their world, Zenth touched the smooth walls of the tower. His ancestors had built this place 3,000 years ago. Now he would be the last High Speaker to stand here. The weight of awe. That truth made his shoulders heavy. "High Speaker," came a voice behind him. Mindshaper Krell entered the chamber, his blue-scaled face showing worry. "The council waits for your decision." Zenth turned from the window. Below them, the great city of Valdris stretched out like a jewel. 2 million Valdari lived there. Another 300,000 lived in smaller cities across the planet. All of them would die when the star finally exploded. "What news from the evacuation efforts?" Zenth asked. Krell's head fins drooped. "Our ships can carry perhaps 50,000 people to the outer colonies. The colonies themselves can support maybe another 100,000. That leaves over 2 million with nowhere to go." Zenth closed his eyes. They had known this day would come. Their sun had been showing signs of instability for decades, but it was happening faster than anyone expected. Much faster. The other option? Zenth asked, though he already knew the answer. "We send the great message," Krell said quietly. "We offer our knowledge to any species willing to help us evacuate our people." The great message. It contained the sum total of Valdari science and culture. Medical techniques that could cure genetic diseases. Mathematical proofs for clean energy. Philosophical writings about peace and cooperation. Art and music that captured the soul of their civilization. It was everything they were, compressed into data streams and ready to transmit across the galaxy. "The Krex Empire has the ships," Zenth said. "They could evacuate our entire population." "For a price," Krell replied. "They would want our military technology, our weapon designs, things we swore never to share." Zenth walked to the great transmitter controls. The device could send messages to any star system within 1,000 light years. 47 different civilizations would receive their plea. "The hegemony has merchant fleets," he continued, thinking aloud. "They move millions of beings across space for trade. They calculate profit in everything," Krell said. "What do we have that they would want badly enough to save us?" "The Synthesis Collective has the most advanced ships in the galaxy. They see organic life as inefficient. They would study us, not save us." Zenth placed his hand on the transmitter. "What about the newer species? The ones we haven't dealt with much?" Krell consulted his datapad. "The Meridians are peaceful, but have few ships. The Talar Confederacy is in civil war. The humans ... double quotes. He paused. "What about the humans? They're very new to space travel. Maybe 100 years. Their technology is primitive compared to ours. They have perhaps 50 ships capable of interstellar travel." Zenth considered this. Humans. He had read reports about them. A young species that had only recently discovered faster-than-light travel. They were known for being emotional and unpredictable. Most galactic powers considered them barely civilized. "Sometimes the young see solutions the old cannot," Zenth said. "We will send the message to all of them. Every civilization that might help." Krell's fingers moved over the controls. "The message is ready. It contains our entire cultural database, our scientific knowledge, our history, everything." "And our plea?" "I have written it as simply as possible. We tell them who we are, what is happening to our world, and what we need. We offer our knowledge. In exchange for evacuation ships." Zenth took a deep breath. This was the hardest decision any High Speaker had ever made. They were offering to give away everything their people had learned in 5,000 years of civilization. all for the chance that someone somewhere might care enough to help strangers. Send it, he said. The transmitter hummed to life. Energy coursed through the great antenna array on top of the tower. The message began its journey across the galaxy, traveling at the speed of light to 47 different star systems far across the galaxy. On the third planet of a yellow star, Dr. Lisa Park was working the late shift at the Arecibo 2 radio telescope facility. A massive dish pointed toward the constellation Lyra, listening for signals from space. She had been searching for signs of alien life for 15 years. Most nights brought only cosmic background noise and the occasional pulsar. Tonight was different. The signal came in strong and clear. Not the random static of natural phenomena, but organized data patterns. Lisa's heart raced as she watched the display screens fill with information. This was it. This was what every radio astronomer dreamed of finding. She called her supervisor, then the department head. Within an hour, the facility was buzzing with activity. Linguists, mathematicians, and physicists crowded around the computers as they worked to decode the alien message. The breakthrough came at dawn. Dr. Janet Miller, the head linguist, had found the mathematical key that unlocked the alien language. What they discovered made everyone in the room fall silent. "It's a distress call," Janet said, her voice barely above a whisper. "They're asking for help. Their star is dying, and they need ships to evacuate their people." Lisa read over the translated message. The aliens called themselves Valdari. They lived on a planet orbiting a red star that was becoming unstable. They had maybe 6 months before radiation would make their world uninhabitable. They were offering their entire scientific and cultural database to anyone willing to help evacuate their population. "How many people are we talking about?" asked Dr. Bob Harris, the facility director. 2.3 million beings, Janet replied. The room fell quiet again. Earth's entire space fleet consisted of maybe 60 ships, and most of those were designed for scientific missions or asteroid mining. The idea of evacuating over 2 million aliens seemed impossible. "We need to tell someone about this," Bob said finally. "This goes way above our pay grade." Lisa stared at the message scrolling across her screen. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was facing extinction. They had sent their plea to dozens of worlds, hoping someone would answer. Someone would care enough to help complete strangers. She wondered if anyone would. The emergency session of the Global Council lasted 18 hours. Representatives from every nation on Earth sat around the massive circular table in Geneva. The translated Valdari message played on screens throughout the chamber. Captain Jake Morrison stood at attention near the podium, his dress uniform crisp despite the long night. "The situation is clear," said President Elena Martinez of the Americas Union. "An alien civilization is asking for our help. They're offering their entire knowledge base in exchange for evacuation assistance." The Chinese representative, Minister Wang Li, shook his head. "Our space fleet is designed for exploration and mining operations. We have 37 ships capable of deep space travel. That's not enough to evacuate 2 million beings." 2.3 million, corrected Dr. Lisa Park from her seat in the observer section. She had been called to brief the council on the alien message. "And we have more ships than 37 if we count everything." Jake stepped forward when the council president nodded to him. "Ma'am, I've been working with Fleet Command to assess our capabilities. We have 63 ships that could make the journey to Valdari space. Cargo haulers, mining vessels, research ships, even some of the luxury cruise liners that operate in the outer system." The Russian delegate, Commissioner Petrov, laughed coldly. "You want to send cruise ships on a rescue mission across the galaxy? This is madness." "With respect, sir," Jake replied, "those cruise ships have life support systems designed to keep thousands of people alive for months at a time. With modifications, they could transport civilians. The debate continued for hours. Some representatives argued that Earth couldn't afford such a massive operation. Others worried about the risks of traveling through unknown space. A few suggested waiting to see if other alien civilizations would respond to the Valdari plea. Admiral Susan Wright, the head of Earth's defense fleet, finally stood up. She was a small woman with gray hair and steel in her voice. Ladies and gentlemen, I've spent my entire career preparing to defend humanity from threats we couldn't imagine. Today, we have the chance to do something different. We can be the threat that threatens indifference. We can be the ones who answer when others turn away. The vote was close. 57 nations voted yes. 43 voted no. But it was enough. Operation Sanctuary was approved. Within hours, news of the decision leaked to the Galactic communication networks. The response from other civilizations was swift and harsh. KREX Ambassador Vextor released a public statement from his embassy ship orbiting Jupiter. The humans demonstrate their primitive thinking once again. They would bankrupt their species to save strangers who offer nothing of military value. This foolish gesture will accomplish nothing but their own destruction. The Synthesis Collective's response came through their AI representatives. Probability calculations indicate a 97.3% chance of mission failure. Human emotional responses override logical decision-making processes. This behavior confirms their status as a developing civilization. Even sympathetic species express doubt. The Meridian Council sent a private message to Earth's leaders. We admire your compassion, but the void sector between your space and Valdari territory is extremely dangerous. Many experienced crews have been lost attempting to cross it. Jake didn't care what the aliens thought. He had a job to do. Admiral Wright put him in charge of fleet operations for Operation Sanctuary. His first stop was the Luna shipyards, where Chief Engineer Tony Chun was already working on modifications. To the rescue fleet. How bad is it? Jake asked as he floated through the zero-gravity workshop. Tony wiped sweat from his forehead. Bad enough. These ships weren't designed for mass evacuations. We're basically rebuilding them from the inside out. Life support. Systems, sleeping quarters, food storage, waste management. Everything has to be recalculated for alien passengers. Jake watched as workers welded new compartments into the cargo hold of a mining ship. What about the journey itself? Can these ships make it to Valdari space? The distance isn't the problem, Tony said. It's the void sector. Gravitational anomalies, radiation storms, rogue planets. Our navigation systems have never mapped that region, and we'll have to figure it out as we go. Tony laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. You know what the other species are calling. US, the crazy humans. They think we've lost our minds. Maybe we have, Jake said. But sometimes crazy is what the situation requires. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Park was having her own challenges. She led a team of linguists and communications experts trying to establish better contact with the Valdari. The aliens had provided basic translation programs with their initial message, but truly understanding each other would take time. We need to let them know we're coming, Lisa told her team during their daily briefing. They sent that message to 47 civilizations. For all they know, nobody got it. Dr. Janet Miller looked up from her computer. I've been working on a response message. The problem is making sure they understand our capabilities and limitations. We don't want to promise more than we can deliver. What have you told them so far? That we received their message and want to help. I explained our fleet size and estimated arrival time. I also asked about their people's biological requirements. We need to know if they can breathe our air, eat our food, survive at our temperature ranges. Lisa nodded. Good thinking. What about cultural issues? We're going to be stuck on ships together for months." Dr. Robert Kim, their cultural specialist, cleared his throat. "That's where things get complicated. From what I can tell from their cultural database, Valdari society is built around family groups called pods. These pods can include anywhere, from 12 to 50 individuals across multiple generations. Separating pod members would be traumatic for them. So we need to keep families together during evacuation," Lisa said. "It's more than that. Their entire social structure is based on these pod relationships. If we break them up, we might cause psychological damage to the survivors." Lisa felt a headache building. Every solution seemed to create 3 new problems. But they would figure it out. They had to. Meanwhile, pilot Amy Rodriguez was running flight simulations for the journey. Through the void sector, the navigation computer kept showing her the same thing. Too many unknown variables to guarantee a safe route. "The problem is, we're flying blind," she told navigator Ben Foster during their planning session. "We have basic stellar charts, but nothing detailed enough for safe navigation." Ben studied the holographic display showing their projected route. "What if we don't try to find the safest path? What if we aim for the fastest one? That's even more dangerous." "Maybe. But those people don't have time for us to take the scenic route. Every day we spend being careful is another day closer to their star killing them." Amy looked at the star charts again. Ben was right. The Valdari were dying while Earth's fleet tried to find the perfect plan. Sometimes good enough had to be good enough. "All right," she said. "We plot the fastest course and deal with whatever we find along the way." Across the solar system, 37 ships were being converted into evacuation vessels. Engineers worked around the clock, installing additional life support systems. Cooks experimented with foods that both humans and Valdari could eat. Medical teams studied alien biology to prepare for treating injured refugees. Jake stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, looking out at the busy shipyard. In 3 weeks, this motley fleet would begin the most dangerous rescue mission in human history. They would cross uncharted space to save people they had never met, risking everything for strangers who could offer them nothing but gratitude. Other civilizations called them crazy. Maybe they were right, but Jake had read the Valdari message dozens of times now. He had seen their art, their music, their philosophy. These were people worth saving. And if humanity was crazy enough to try, then maybe crazy was exactly what the galaxy needed. The human fleet entered the void sector on a Tuesday. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Liberty, watching the stars change from friendly yellow points to harsh white dots. Behind him, 36 other ships followed in loose formation. Each vessel carried supplies for a 3-month journey and equipment to support alien refugees for the return trip. "Navigation readings are getting weird," reported Ben Foster from his station. "The gravitational fields here don't match our charts." Jake nodded. They had expected this. The void sector was called a void for good reason. Space here was twisted by invisible forces. Dead stars pulled at ships with gravity that couldn't be seen until it was too late. Pockets of radiation drifted like poison clouds between the stars. "Reduce speed to half," Jake ordered. "Send the signal to the fleet." "Amy." Rodriguez adjusted the controls at the pilot station. "Captain, at this speed the journey will take 5 months instead of 3. "Better slow than dead," Jake replied. 3 days into the void sector, they encountered their first real problem. The cargo ship New Hope reported engine troubles. Chief Engineer Kelly Brooks took a shuttle over to examine the damage. "It's the gravity well from that neutron star," Kelly reported over the radio. "The tidal forces are stronger than we calculated. The engine housing is cracked." Jake studied the readings. The neutron star was still millions of kilometers away, but its incredible density was already affecting their ships. "Can you fix it?" "Not out here. I need a proper workshop and replacement parts we don't have." Dr. Chris Lee, the fleet's chief medical officer, spoke up from his station. "Captain, we're starting to see radiation sickness in some crew members. The shielding on the older ships isn't designed for this level of exposure." Jake felt the weight of command pressing down on him. Every decision could mean the difference between success and disaster. "Kelly, strip what you need from the supply ships. Chris, move the sickest crew members to ships with better shielding." The repairs took 6 days. 6 days while the Valdari star grew more unstable. 6 days while radiation levels in the void sector continued to climb. But the New Hope's engines came back online, and the fleet continued deeper into the dangerous region. 2 weeks later, they ran into something worse. "Captain, you need to see this," Amy said, her voice tight with worry. Jake looked at the navigation display. Ahead of them, space itself seemed to be twisted into a knot. Stars appeared in places where they shouldn't be. The scanner readings made no sense. "It's a gravity maze," Ben explained. "Multiple collapsed stars, creating intersecting gravity fields. Our computer can't calculate a safe path through it." Jake stared at the display. The maze stretched across their planned route. Like a wall. Going around would add weeks to their journey. Time they didn't have. What are options? "We could try to navigate through manually," Amy said. "Use the ship's sensors to detect gravity changes and adjust course in real time." "How dangerous is that?" Ben checked his calculations. "Very. One mistake and we get stretched apart by tidal forces. Or crushed. Or thrown off course so far we never find our way back." Jake was quiet for a long moment. Through the bridge windows, he could see the other ships in their fleet. Each one carried people who had volunteered for this mission. People who believed in saving the Valdari. People who trusted him to bring them home. "We go through," he decided. "Amy, take us in slow. Ben, call out every gravity shift you detect. Kelly, monitor the hull stress indicators." The passage through the gravity maze took 8 hours. 8 hours of careful maneuvering as invisible forces tried to tear their ships apart. The UE's Liberty led the way, with the other vessels following in single file. 3 times they had to backtrack when the path ahead became too dangerous. Twice Jake thought they were going to lose ships to the crushing gravity, but they made it through. All 37 vessels emerged on the far side, battered but intact. "Damage report," Jake called out. "Hull stress fractures on 6 ships," Kelly reported. "Nothing critical, but we'll need to monitor them. The good news is we're through the worst of it." She was wrong. The worst came 3 weeks later when they encountered the radiation storm. It appeared on their sensors as a wall of deadly energy stretching across thousands of kilometers. There was no going around it, and no time to wait for it to pass. "Radiation levels are off the charts," Dr. Lee reported. "Exposure to this will kill anyone not in proper shielding within hours." Jake studied the readings. The storm was moving toward them at tremendous speed. In 12 hours, it would engulf their position whether they moved or not. Options? "We can reinforce the shielding on the cargo areas," Kelly said. "Move everyone into the most protected parts of each ship. It won't be comfortable, but it might. Keep people alive." "Do it," Jake ordered. "All ships prepare for radiation storm protocols." The next 18 hours were the longest of Jake's life. Crammed into the Liberty's shielded command center with 40 other people, he listened to reports from the other ships. The radiation was cooking their hull plating. Electronics were failing throughout the fleet. On 3 ships, people were getting sick despite the extra shielding. Dr. Lee worked around the clock treating radiation poisoning. "We're running low on medical supplies," he reported during hour 16. "If this storm doesn't pass soon, we're going to lose people. Jake closed his eyes. They had come so far, lost so much time, used up so many supplies. The thought of turning back now made him sick. "Captain," Amy said quietly. "Message coming in from the Valdari homeworld." Jake opened his eyes. "Put it through." The translation was rough, but the meaning was clear. High Speaker Zenth was thanking them for coming. The Valdari had been monitoring human communications and knew about the difficulties the fleet was facing. Zenth's message was simple: "Your courage gives us hope in our darkest hour." Jake looked around the cramped command center, at Amy's determined face, at Ben's steady hands on the navigation controls, at Kelly's grease-stained uniform as she worked to keep their ship running, at Dr. Lee's tired eyes as he treated another radiation victim. These people had given up months of their lives to help strangers. They had risked everything because it was the right thing to do. The radiation storm couldn't last forever. The journey couldn't go on forever. But their determination could. "All ships, this is Captain Morrison." He broadcast to the fleet. "I know it's been rough. I know we're behind schedule and running low on supplies. But we're going to make it. We're going to reach the Valdari, and we're going to bring them home. Because that's what humans do. We don't quit on people who need our help." The radiation storm finally passed 6 hours later. The fleet emerged damaged, but still flying. They had lost 2 months of travel time and used up most of their emergency supplies. But they were alive, and they were still moving toward Valdari. Space. Behind them, the galaxy's major powers continued to watch and wait for the humans to fail. Ahead of them, the Valdari counted down the days until their star would kill them all. And somewhere between hope and disaster, 37 human ships pressed on through the darkness, carrying the stubborn belief that sometimes the impossible was just another word for difficult. The red star of Kepler 442b filled the main screen as the human fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Liberty, staring at the angry ball of fire that was slowly killing an entire civilization. The star pulsed with violent energy, sending waves of deadly radiation across the system. "My God," whispered Amy Rodriguez from the pilot's seat. "It's beautiful and terrifying at the same time." "Valdari ships approaching," reported Ben Foster. 3 vessels, moving slowly. "They're not armed." Jake nodded. After 5 months of dangerous travel, they were finally here. The moment that would determine if their sacrifice had been worth it. Open communication channels. The main screen flickered and changed. For the first time in human history, people from Earth looked directly at an alien face. High Speaker Zenth appeared on the screen, his blue-scaled features showing a mixture of hope and disbelief. Behind him stood other Valdari, their large eyes reflecting the red light of their dying star. "Humans of Earth," Zenth said in heavily accented English. We did not dare believe you would truly come." Jake stepped forward. "High Speaker Zenth, I'm Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth Defense Fleet. We received your message, and we're here to help." Zenth's head fins quivered with emotion. 47 civilizations received our plea. Only you answered. Only you came. Then, "Let's not waste any more time," Jake said. "We need to meet in person to coordinate the evacuation. Will you come aboard our ship?" 2 hours later, the first meeting between humans and Valdari took place in the Liberty's main conference room. Jake sat across from High Speaker Zenth, with Dr. Lisa Park serving as translator and cultural advisor. The Valdari leader was taller than most humans, with gentle eyes and skin that shifted color slightly with his emotions. "Your fleet is smaller than we expected," said Mindshaper Krell, Zenth's science advisor. Jake felt embarrassed. These aliens had probably expected a massive armada, not 37 converted civilian ships. "We brought what we could." Every ship we have that can make the journey. How many of our people can you evacuate? Zenth asked. Jake looked at his notes. Our best estimate is 2.2 million. We've modified our ships to carry as many passengers as possible. Zenth's skin darkened with sadness. That leaves 100,000 who cannot come. The eldest volunteers, Krell explained. Those who are too sick to travel. Those who choose to stay with their world until the end. The weight of that sacrifice settled over the room like a heavy blanket. Jake swallowed hard. We'll do everything we can to save as many as possible. We know, Zenth said softly. What you have already done is more than we dared hope for. Dr. Lisa Park leaned forward. We need to understand your people better. Family structures, dietary needs, medical requirements. We want to make this as easy as possible for your people. Our society is built around family pods, Krell explained. These groups of 12 to 50 individuals must stay together. Separating pod members causes severe psychological trauma. Jake made notes. We can work with that. What about food and atmosphere? We can breathe your air, though it is a bit thin for us. Our dietary needs are similar to yours, though we cannot process some proteins that you find nutritious. The meeting continued for hours as they worked out the details. The evacuation would begin immediately, starting with the youngest and most vulnerable. The ships would work in rotation, loading passengers while others prepared for departure. Chief Logistics Officer Dan Martinez had been busy preparing loading schedules. We can evacuate about 60,000 people per day if everything goes perfectly, he reported. How long will that take? Jake asked. 37 days for the full population. But that assumes no problems, no delays, and perfect cooperation. Jake looked at the latest reports from Valdari scientists. Their star was becoming more unstable every day. They might not have 37 days. The evacuation began at dawn on the planet below. Jake watched from orbit as Valdari families gathered at the designated pickup points. Their cities were beautiful, with flowing architecture that seemed to grow from the ground itself. It was heartbreaking to think that all of this would soon be destroyed. Dr. Marie Johnson, their cultural liaison, was aboard the first shuttle to reach the surface. Her job was to help ease Valdari fears about leaving their homeworld. Many of the aliens had never left their planet before. The children are fascinated by us, she reported over radio. They keep staring at our hair and asking why we don't have scales. The adults are more worried. They're scared about leaving everything they've ever known. Tell them they're going to a new home, Jake replied. Tell them Earth has prepared places for them to live safely. As the first group of Valdari refugees came aboard the Liberty, Jake watched human and alien crew members working together. The language barrier created some problems, but hand gestures and simple words seemed to work. Children from both species were already playing together in the ship's common areas. Engineer Kelly Brooks was working with Valdari technicians to understand their equipment. Their technology is different from ours, she reported. More advanced in some ways, more primitive in others. But I think we can make it work with our systems. Dr. Chris Lee was setting up medical facilities for alien patients. Their biology is close enough to ours that human medicine should work on them, he said, though I'm learning some interesting things about their healing techniques. 3 days into the evacuation, unwelcome visitors arrived. Captain, we have ships dropping out of hyperspace, Ben announced. 15 vessels. They're flying hegemony. Colors. Jake cursed under his breath. The hegemony was a trade confederation known throughout the galaxy for their greed. It probably smelled profit in the disaster dot. The hegemony fleet was led by a massive ship called the Golden Prophet. Its captain, Commodore Vex Now, appeared on Jake's communication screen. He was an insect-like being with multiple arms and cold, calculating eyes. Human Captain, Vexnell clicked in accented English. You are in violation of hegemony trade space. These resources belong to us by right of salvage. This isn't salvage, Jake replied firmly. This is a rescue operation. These people are still alive. Soon they will not be. Their star dies, their world dies, their possessions become salvage. Hegemony law is clear. I don't care about hegemony law. I care about saving lives. Vexnall's mandibles clicked with what might have been laughter. Primitive human emotions. You will withdraw your ships and allow us to claim what is rightfully ours. No. Then we will take it by force. Jake looked around his bridge. His crew was tired from months of travel and days of non-stop evacuation work. His ships were civilian vessels with minimal weapons. The hegemony fleet was designed for intimidation and had enough firepower to destroy the human fleet, but they had come too far to quit now. All ships, this is Captain Morrison, he broadcast to his fleet. We didn't travel across the galaxy to be bullied by scavengers. We're here to save the Valdari, and that's exactly what we're going to do. On the planet below, High Speaker Zenth received reports of the confrontation in orbit. He made a decision that surprised everyone. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Valdari activated their planet's ancient defense systems, not to protect themselves, but to protect the humans, who had come to save them. The galaxy was about to learn that sometimes the most powerful weapon was simple gratitude. The ancient defense grid around Kepler 442b hadn't been used in over 1,000 years. Deep beneath the planet's surface, massive energy collectors that had slept for generations suddenly hummed to life. High Speaker Zenth stood in the control chamber, his scaled hands moving over controls that his ancestors had built for a war that never came. Are you certain about this? Asked Mindshaper Krell. Once we activate the grid, we cannot power it down. It will drain our remaining energy. Reserves. Zenth watched the displays showing the human evacuation ships loading more Valdari refugees. In orbit, the hegemony fleet was moving into threatening positions around the rescue vessels. The humans crossed the galaxy to save us. The least we can do is give them a clear path home. Captain Jake Morrison watched from the Liberty's bridge as energy beams suddenly lanced out from the planet's surface. The ancient Valdari weapons were beautiful and terrible, creating paths of pure light that stretched across space. They weren't aimed at the hegemony ships, but around them, boxing them in and preventing them from interfering with the evacuation. Incredible, whispered Engineer Kelly Brooks. Those energy readings are off the charts. The Valdari have been hiding some serious firepower. Commodore Vexnell's angry voice crackled over the communication system. This is an act of war against the Hegemony Confederation. You will power down your weapons immediately. High Speaker Zenth's calm reply came from the planet below. These are not weapons aimed at you, Commodore. They are simply lights to guide our friends safely home. You are free to leave at any time. Jake almost smiled. The Valdari had created an energy gauge around the hegemony ships without technically attacking them. It was brilliant diplomacy backed by ancient technology, but the situation was still dangerous. Jake could see more ships dropping out of hyperspace. Word was spreading across the galaxy about the confrontation. Some species were coming to watch the show. Others might be coming to claim their own piece of the prize. Captain, reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Rachel Kim, we're receiving messages from multiple alien fleets. The Krex Empire is sending a battle group. The Synthesis Collective has dispatched 3 science vessels. Even the Meridians are sending observers. Jake felt the pressure building. Every hour they spent dealing with alien politics was an hour less for evacuation. And the Valdari star was getting worse. Status report on the evacuation, he called out. Chief Logistics Officer Dan Martinez looked up from his displays. We've evacuated 1.6 million people so far, but we're falling behind schedule. The hegemony interference cost us 8 hours, and now we're getting reports of technical problems on several ships. Dr. Chris Lee joined the conversation from the medical bay. We're also seeing stress reactions in the Valdari passengers. Being separated from their homeworld is causing psychological trauma in some individuals, and the children are having trouble adapting to our ship environments. Jake rubbed his tired eyes. They had been working non-stop for weeks, and everyone was exhausted, but they couldn't stop now. Not when they were so close to success. What's the latest from the star? He asked. Amy Rodriguez checked the astronomical data. The radiation storms are getting stronger. The science teams estimate we have maybe 72 hours before the star enters its final collapse phase. After that, the planet becomes uninhabitable. 72 hours to evacuate 600,000 people. It seemed impossible. All ships, this is Captain Morrison. Jake broadcast to the fleet. I know you're all tired. I know the ships are being pushed beyond their limits, but we're in the final stretch. Every person we save in the next 3 days is a life that would have been lost forever. We can do this. Kelly Brooks was already working miracles, keeping the aging ships functional. She had teams of engineers working around the clock, cannibalizing parts from damaged vessels to keep the essential systems running. The UE's Liberty's main engine was held together with spare parts and hope. The engine temperature is running. Too hot, she reported to Jake during one of their brief status meetings. We're pushing these ships beyond their design limits. I don't know how much longer they can take this stress. How much longer do we need them to last? If everything goes perfectly, 72 hours. But nothing has gone perfectly on this mission. As if to prove her point, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Amy Rodriguez fought with the flight controls as the Liberty shuddered and lost altitude. Engine failure in the main drive. Kelly announced, "We're losing power fast." Jake made a quick decision. Emergency evacuation of our passengers to other ships. Kelly, what do you need to fix this? Parts from the cargo hauler New Dawn. Their engine is compatible with ours. But that will leave the New Dawn unable to make the journey home. Jake closed his eyes for a moment. The New Dawn carried a crew of 30 volunteers. Good people who had signed up to help save alien strangers. Now he had to ask them to sacrifice their ride home so the mission could continue. "Do it," he said. "I'll talk to Captain Peters myself." The call was one of the hardest Jake had ever made. Captain Sarah Peters of the New Dawn listened to his request without interrupting. When he finished, there was a long silence. "My crew, and I knew the risks when we signed up," she finally said. "If taking our engine keeps the evacuation running, then that's what we'll do. We'll transfer to other ships for the journey home." "Sarah, Don't apologize, Jake. We came here to save lives. If 30 people have to crowd onto other ships so that hundreds of thousands of Valdari can live, that's a fair trade." The engine transfer took 16 precious hours. 16 hours while the Valdari star grew more unstable and the remaining refugees waited for rescue. But when it was done, the Liberty was flying again, and the evacuation continued. Dr. Marie Johnson was working on the planet's surface, helping organize the final evacuation groups. The scene was heartbreaking. Elderly Valdari saying goodbye to family members who would make the journey to safety. Parents holding children who were too sick to travel. Communities that had existed for thousands of years preparing to scatter across the galaxy. "The hardest part is the volunteers who are staying behind," she reported to Jake. "About 50,000 Valdari have chosen to remain with their world. They're the elderly, the sick, and those who simply cannot bear to leave their home." Jake understood. Every species had individuals who would rather die in familiar surroundings than live as strangers in a foreign place. It was their choice to make, but it still hurt to leave people behind. Final count, Dan Martinez announced as the last evacuation ships launched from the planet's surface. 2.1 million Valdari evacuated. 150,000. Remaining on the planet by choice. It wasn't perfect. They hadn't saved everyone. But they had saved more than anyone thought possible. As the human fleet prepared to depart, High Speaker Zenth sent one final message from the planet below. To our human friends, he said, his voice heavy with emotion. You came when no one else would. You risked everything for people you had never met. We will never forget this gift. Our children's children will sing songs of the humans who answered our cry for help. Jake looked at the red star on his display screen. Soon it would explode, taking the beautiful Valdari homeworld with it. But the people, the culture, the knowledge, all of that would survive. The Valdari would live on, scattered among the stars, because one young species had decided that helping strangers was worth any risk. The journey home would be just as dangerous as the journey out, but they had done it. Against all odds, despite every obstacle, they had saved a civilization. Now, they just had to get everyone home safely. The human fleet limped away from the dying Kepler 442b system, carrying 2.1 million Valdari refugees. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the U.S. Liberty, watching the red star grow smaller on the main screen. Behind them, the ancient Valdari homeworld continued, its slow dance around a sun that would soon destroy it. The journey home was different from the trip out. The ships were crowded beyond their design limits. Every corridor, every storage room, every available. Space held Valdari families trying to adapt to their new reality. The air recycling systems worked overtime. Food supplies were stretched thin. But somehow, it was working. Dr. Chris Lee moved between the ships like a traveling doctor, treating both humans and Valdari patients. The amazing thing is how well they're adapting, he told Jake during one of their daily briefings. The Valdari have medical techniques I've never seen before. They're teaching our medics while learning from us. In the engineering sections, Kelly Brooks worked alongside Valdari technicians to keep the overloaded ships running. The aliens had a different approach to technology, using biological systems where humans used mechanical ones. They grow their tools instead of building them, she explained to Jake. It's incredible. They can fix things using living matter that adapts to the problem. Amy Rodriguez had help from Valdari navigators who knew different star patterns. Their combined knowledge made the journey through the void sector safer than the trip out. They see space differently than we do, she said. Where we see empty vacuum, they see currents and flows. It's like they can read the galaxy's emotions. The ships had become floating cities where two species learned from each other. Human children played games with Valdari youngsters, creating new rules that worked for both groups. Adults shared stories, music, and food. Language barriers slowly broke down as basic communication became second nature. Dr. Lisa Park spent her time documenting everything. This was the first extended contact between humans and another intelligent species. Every interaction, every cultural exchange, every moment of cooperation was valuable for the future. They're teaching us as much as we're teaching them, she told Jake. The Valdari have been peaceful for over 3,000 years. They've solved problems that we're still struggling with: poverty, war, environmental destruction. They figured out how to live without destroying their world. What went wrong then? Jake asked. Nothing went wrong. Stars die. It's natural. They knew this day would come eventually. They just didn't expect it to happen so fast. 3 months into the journey home, they received news from Earth. The Global Council had approved the construction of 3 new colonies specifically for Valdari refugees. Engineers were already working on cities designed for both human and alien residents. But the most important news came from the wider galaxy. The story of humanity's rescue mission had spread to every civilized world. The response was mixed, but it was strong. The Crux Empire released a statement calling the operation a waste of resources for sentimental purposes. But privately, several Crux officers had requested transfers to units that might work with humans. In the future, the Synthesis Collective published analysis papers on human emotional decision-making patterns that concluded emotions could sometimes produce better results than pure logic. The Meridian Council officially invited humanity to join the Galactic Peace Alliance, citing their demonstrated commitment to protecting innocent life. Even the hegemony, which had tried to interfere with the rescue, quietly sent trade representatives to Earth to discuss economic cooperation opportunities. Jake read the reports with mixed feelings. He was glad that humanity was gaining respect in the galaxy, but he hoped it was for the right reasons. "We didn't do this to impress anyone," he told Admiral Wright during a communication call. "We did it because it was right." "I know," Wright replied. "But the galaxy is noticing us now. That brings opportunities and dangers." The real test came when they finally reached human space. Earth's orbital stations had been converted into temporary refugee processing centers. Ships from every human world had brought supplies and volunteers to help with the resettlement. Jake watched from the Liberty's bridge as the first Valdari families stepped onto human space stations. The aliens looked around in wonder at the bustling activity, the mix of different human cultures, the organized chaos of a growing civilization. High Speaker Zenth was among the first to disembark. He had spent the journey learning about human culture and was now fluent in several Earth languages. Jake met him personally at the docking station. "Welcome to human space," Jake said. Zenth's skin displayed colors that Jake had learned meant deep gratitude. "Captain Morrison, I must tell you something. We sent our plea to 47 civilizations. We received responses from all of them." Jake was surprised. "You did? But I thought we were the only ones who came." "You were. The others responded with calculations, cost analysis, risk assessments, demands for payment or technology transfers. They all had logical reasons why they could not help. Only humanity sent a different message. What did we say? Your Dr. Park sent a simple question. She asked, how many people need to be saved? Not what we could pay. Not what you would gain. Just how many lives were at stake. Jake felt something tight in his chest. It was such a simple question, but it revealed everything about the difference between humanity and the other galactic powers. The Valdari settlement on New Terra was completed 6 months after the fleet's return. The colony was a marvel of combined human and Valdari technology. Human engineering built the foundations, while Valdari bioarchitecture created living buildings that grew and adapted to their inhabitants. Needs. Jake visited the colony for its dedication ceremony. The central square was filled with humans and Valdari celebrating together. Children from both species ran through gardens that changed color with the seasons. Adults worked side by side in research facilities where human innovation combined. With Valdari wisdom. High Speaker Zenth gave the dedication speech to a crowd of thousands. When our star began to die, we thought our story was ending, he said. We sent our plea across the galaxy, hoping someone might remember us after we were gone. Instead, we found something better. We found friends who showed us that our story was just beginning. Dr. Lisa Park stood next to Jake as they watched Valdari and human families sharing meals at long tables. The other species are calling it the human miracle, she said. They can't understand how we did it. What do you tell them? That it wasn't a miracle. It was just humans being human. We saw people in trouble, and we helped. Everything else was just details. Jake nodded. Around them, human and Valdari scientists were planning joint research projects. Engineers from both species were designing new ships that could carry rescue missions to other worlds. Children were learning each other's languages and games and songs. The galaxy had learned something important about humanity. But Jake thought humans had learned something more important about themselves. When faced with impossible odds and logical reasons to fail, they had chosen compassion over calculation. They had risked everything for strangers, because it was the right thing to do. In the end, that might be the most human thing of all. The stars above New Terra shone with the light of countless worlds. Somewhere among them, other civilizations watched and waited, perhaps calculating the odds of their own survival. But now they knew something they hadn't known before. If the worst happened, if their worlds faced destruction and their people needed help, there was one species in the galaxy that would hear their cry and answer with a simple question: how many people need to be saved? And sometimes that made all the difference in the universe.